Peter and Zach are not experts, and everything they say should be taken with at least 1 grain of salt. Please keep your ears engaged throughout the whole podcast to prevent rampant confusion. Now, brace your mind for impact. Love of the sun came back again to make it clear that he never said it would need demand. Shame on a man.
Hello everyone and welcome to episode 2 of Trends and Theory, here again with your weekly dose of sciencey goodness applied directly to the ear holes. I'm one half of your host, Zach Baru, and the other half is right here.
It's me, Peter Batstone, the second half, the larger half, still technically a half.
Yeah. We're going to talk about more science stuff this week, aren't we? What's been going on?
That's what we do. That's the plan. Zach, how much would you like to go into space?
Well, right now we're recording the podcast, so maybe later, I guess.
No, yeah, but what if we did a podcast in space?
Let's do episode 3 in space.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that. We'll mark it down.
Right.
Please comment if you'd like to hear about a podcast in space. No, this is pretty cool news from Elon Musk with his gang at SpaceX.
Oh,
They're going to be sending a privately crewed vessel, aiming to sort of slingshot around the moon and come back to Earth. And obviously, it sold out fairly quickly. I didn't get a ticket because I'm not a billionaire.
Oh, what was it? Like 2 people or something?
Yeah, it's 2 people. I don't think they've been announced, but yeah. I do think the tickets have been
I bought
sold.
both of the tickets, so I could go by myself.
Baby.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to be in May 2018, so we'll be on episode 5 by then, I think.
yeah. Hopefully, it's pretty crazy though. Like civilian space travel. So they're going round the moon.
Just sort of round the moon and then back again, and hopefully landing back on Earth, not just firing round the moon and then off into the void of space. To find new frontiers. I think it's really cool. It's sort of bringing the space fantasy back into everyday eyes. The sort of magic of space travel.
I think that's good. Do you know how much the tickets went for?
I do not, but I think it's safe to assume that it's a lot.
If you know, post it in the comments.
Absolutely. If you know, remember to share our video on Twitter.
Like and subscribe.
Exactly.
Cool.
No, I mean, the cost of these trips are colossal, and we're not exactly space wizards yet, so we haven't got it all nailed down in terms of
and
efficiency.
It's like based on the weight, the price goes up a lot to launch these things as well, doesn't it? So
and of course it's got to land as well. Anyway, Zach, further in space, what's going on?
Oh right, well, you may remember, if you're a keen listener, that last week we talked a bit about TRAPPIST-1, the new system that's been discovered with potentially life-bearing planets in it. If you don't remember, it's a star about 40-ish light years away from Earth, a red dwarf star which has 7 planets orbiting around it, and at least 3 of them are within a potentially habitable zone. So it was quite interesting. Anyway, there's been some updates about how exactly they're going to be investigating it more, particularly in the search for life. And it's not like a trip to Europa where it's a flyby or they pick up some information, because it's too far away. It would take us a really long time to send something there. So no, they've been using space telescopes, the Hubble Space Telescope, and possibly in the future the James Webb Space Telescope as well, going to be peering over at TRAPPIST-1. And there's some interesting things about potential life that might be there. So A red dwarf star, first of all, is different from our sun, in that the types of radiation it emits are potentially more dangerous to life. They emit more X-rays and UV radiation. And TRAPPIST-1 is a red dwarf star, so
I already have the sunscreen up like crazy.
yeah.
This is not good news.
Yeah, and because all of the planets are on a close orbit, I mentioned last week that all the planets could fit in between the Sun and Mercury if you sort of translated them into our solar system. But it's not even that. Like, they could fit into less than half of the space between the Sun and Mercury.
Oh my goodness.
So all that high radiation is kind of bad for life. Our
life, I feel like.
Yeah.
Should be said.
Yeah, I guess you can.
Again, like the possibilities are, in some theories, infinite about what we define as
What
life.
constitutes
what
life,
could life
yeah.
be. Yeah, all
So-
that jazz.
Some people from NASA and elsewhere have been making a few predictions about what might happen. First of all, in terms of atmosphere, they're going to be looking with the space telescopes and trying to read a bit more about the types of atmospheres these planets have. They say that if any of these planets had an Earth-like atmosphere, so an atmosphere equivalent to what Earth has today, then the planet would probably be able to sustain life quite happily. That would protect anything on the surface from the radiation. And
yeah, because like every particle in our air is almost. It's kind of like I'm trying to think of a good analogy here, and all I've got is like a black mirror. Like,
yeah, that's
some of it
fair,
absorbs
yeah.
radiation, some of it reflects it back into space.
Yeah.
And of course, sometimes it insulates us as well. So a similar sort of, our atmosphere acts as a barrier against the big flaming ball in the sky that's trying to kill
death rays
us.
from the sun, yeah.
Exactly.
So even 1/10 at the thickness of our current atmosphere could still shelter life, though probably not quite as complex. Any thinner than that, and it's getting a bit dangerous. So that would be something like the atmosphere of Earth about 4 billion years ago, so in its very early days. It still
Which,
could,
as we have discussed, is not ideal.
it's not a great place, no. A planet with that kind of atmosphere still could sort of have life on it, but only if TRAPPIST-1 is a fairly calm star, which means it's not actively sending out, rays of death quite as often as others. But we don't know exactly how calm or active the star is at the moment. And the other thing is, if the surface was dangerous, you could also think that maybe life would appear very deep if there were oceans or underground or in caves or whatever. So it's a bit difficult to look at, but it's pretty cool. So yeah, so there's some good possibilities for finding a life over in TRAPPIST-1.
Yeah, and maybe when everyone can run as fast as I can, we'll be able to go there once we're done on this planet.
Maybe. So you're going to talk about some life from our very own planet, are you?
Yeah, if you look around you, life is everywhere on our planet. You may not know
It really
this.
is, isn't it? Yeah.
But this is something really exciting, actually, is that gene therapy, this idea of you can correct genetic disorders by altering someone's DNA, has sort of finally come to fruition. And for the first time, we've treated such a disorder effectively and apparently permanently.
That is pretty amazing.
Yeah. So a team in France has treated a young man with sickle cell anemia, which is a hemoglobin disease that causes your hemoglobin, which I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole,
Yeah.
but I think it's important to explain.
It's
But
the
hemoglobin
blood, isn't it?
is what carries oxygen on your blood cells, around your blood, which keeps you moving and not dead.
Yeah.
So the sickle cell anemia, it causes these proteins to clump together, the red blood cells get bent out of shape, and these can also clog blood vessels and cause a lot of pain.
Yeah, so it's pretty bad.
Yeah, and
they've managed to treat this with gene therapy, which, as far as I can remember, it sort of involves basically sort of splicing in the correct, sort of normal version of the gene that controls that character. Is that how it works?
In an ideal world, we'll be able to do that, but that would sort of require editing, every single genome of every single cell. So what they did in this instance was they took a sample of bone marrow and they put in another mutant which disrupts the sickle cell mutant. And they put those bone marrow stem cells back into the young man, and it is worked very well. Within 3 months, he was apparently cured and completely off all other forms of treatment. 2 years down the line, he's still good. It's genuinely incredible because this really is the first of its kind.
Yeah, I mean that's a very serious illness that I've learned about multiple times throughout my sort of studying of of biology.
It's brought up a lot when talking
places.
about malaria, in particular in Africa, where it's like partial sickle cell anemia can provide a survival bonus in areas with malaria. That's not something I want to dive into right now.
Yeah, let's not go into that today. But yeah, that's cool. Gene therapy. Go look it up. It's
a thing now. It's real.
It's great. It's good.
Okay.
Cool.
So, Zach, I would like to talk to you today about how I became a big, beautiful butterfly. And
okay. I mean, it is true I haven't actually seen you face to face in a couple of weeks. So
no, yeah.
What's been going on?
If you look on my Instagram, you'll see that I shed my skin, I dissolved myself, and became a
gossamer wings.
Yeah, it's like a bug's life. Oh god, no! Let's not talk about that. That's actually quite horrific when you think about it.
Yeah.
Metamorphosis is one of the coolest processes in nature, I think. And the classic example is a caterpillar forms a pupa, and then you wait for a week or two, and then boom, a butterfly comes out. And I really like thinking about how they first, discovered or measured that. Do you reckon the guy just left his caterpillars alone for a while and came back and they were all gone and there were just butterflies everywhere?
Yeah, so I guess because different species take quite different periods of times to actually to transition from one form to another, don't they? So I guess someone must have just watched something for long enough that they saw what was going on.
Yeah, I mean it's essentially a process of where something goes through a drastic body change, and looks very very different, but is genetically and biologically the exact same animal.
And along with that, I guess their sort of general behavior and like the way they fit into the ecosystem changes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Along with that.
El Clasico example would be caterpillars into butterflies and moths, but a lot of insects do it. You think of your bees. So flounders, those fish that sort of flop along on the bottom of the sea, they're flat and they've got two eyes on them. They start off as regular fish. And then, first of all, one of their eyes moves over to the other side. Then it goes to the bottom, and the bottom side eventually loses all its pigmentation. And that's an interesting sort of continuous form of metamorphosis.
I didn't know that at all.
It's a weird one.
So that happens more gradually. Like it doesn't go into a chrysalis or anything like that, does it?
No, it just kind of says I've had enough of swimming around. I want to go have a lie down.
So in a similar way, it has like a juvenile form and an adult form.
Yeah,
I guess.
I suppose so.
That's
another really
cool.
wacky example would be jellyfish, who, when jellyfish give birth, they grow into what are called polyps, and they're very strange looking, sort of like a tube with frills on it. Of course, it will depend on the species, and they sink to the bottom of the water. and then they develop into almost snowflake-looking things, which then float up and then eventually turn into jellyfish. And obviously it's a bit more complicated than that, but it's not just like jellyfish, copy and pasting themselves.
Yeah. But it's kind of that there's so many stages in its life cycle before it goes from sort of hatching to fully grown, that it kind of makes you think, is that really the most efficient way to do things, or is that just how it's evolved to... Well, obviously it's just how it's evolved to fit into the ecological niche that it is in.
Well, metamorphosis allows for seasonal changes.
Right.
And it also allows for, like a focusing of priorities. I mean, you could very easily have caterpillars that mate and produce offspring, but they're much more efficient as, eating machines that can defend themselves, right?
Yeah,
and the adult butterflies can fly around and have big old sky romantic interactions.
Yeah, so it just makes it more efficient in that way, I guess, where the juvenile form or the caterpillar is good at just eating lots and not being killed, hopefully. And then when its needs change, it adapts to that by going through this dramatic physical change. Yeah. Metamorphosis is a really interesting one. It's a kind of crazy method that these animals or creatures rather have evolved to deal with that changing environment. So that's pretty cool.
And to build on that, research by the Natural Environment Research Council, funded by University of York.
That's my favourite council.
They've done some big data set analysis, and they discovered that metamorphosizing insects diversify more quickly than other insects, and are therefore the biggest contributors to the evolution of insect diversity.
Okay.
It apparently helps them adjust. They're less prone to extinction events. But let's get out of this rabbit hole quickly. We've got to look out for them. They're everywhere today. So
yeah, we're getting distracted by just everything.
So when caterpillars form their pupa, they essentially, they're still inside, or grubbing around. They start essentially dissolving themselves, and then the new nervous system, the new mouth parts, the new wings, all sort of form out of that mush. Oh yeah, and the legs. There's a lot to it. It's a real complicated process.
It is a pretty dramatic change when you think about it, really.
Yeah. I mean, just come in and you see these butterflies everywhere. Where are my caterpillars gone?
Yeah.
It's completely unrecognizable.
You just break down all of the bits you don't want anymore, and then just sort of mold the new parts out of the smush that's been formed.
Yeah. So this whole process is stimulated by how much nutrients the caterpillar has, and it's sort of hormone driven. Once a certain time has passed and how big they've gotten. And then they sort of go past the point of no return as the hormones build up and the process all starts. But
right.
So it's a very intense metabolic process. So
it's just like a very dramatic puberty.
yeah, but they don't just get bigger and hairier.
Yeah, I bet. Our chrysalis caterpillar is just really horrible to their parents and siblings.
Yeah,
and stuff,
and they think they're really smart and that nobody understands them, but all they do is eat leaves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Goddamn.
So, the Oregon Health and Science University in Portland discovered that, as you may expect, the body fat content of butterflies is a lot less than the caterpillars.
They don't just have big fat wings.
Exactly, yeah.
No,
they got little buff bodies that are ready for business.
Yeah. Butterflies are like the extremely fit people of the insect world.
Yeah,
I guess
they've shed all that puppy fat. So this is this week's diet tip: is form a pupa, dissolve
your body
dissolve
parts.
your body parts.
Yeah, that should work well.
Profit. There you go.
I'm gonna go try that.
Yeah, me too. Once this is all done, I'm not going to do it right now because that's rude.
All right, let's finish the podcast first. Yeah.
Okay, so you'd think completely dissolving all of your nervous system would affect your ability to remember things, but a group at Georgetown University have discovered that a moth can remember what it learned as a caterpillar, which is again, it sort of challenges everything. So
that is kind of how like that. Does it maintain parts of the nervous system?
I'm not sure they know.
Down,
I'll read a little segment I've got here from a Science Daily publication. Abaco hornworm caterpillars could be trained to avoid particular odours delivered in association with a mild shock. When adult moths emerged from the pupae of trained caterpillars, they also avoided the odours, showing that they retained their larval memory. However, caterpillars younger than 3 weeks of age learned to avoid an odour, but could not recall the information as adults, whereas older caterpillars, conditioned in the final larval stage before pupation, learned to avoid the odour and recalled the information as adults.
Okay, so
it does,
there's like a cut-off point.
It does kind of throw everything up in the air. Not a cut-off point, but they have to be old enough. And
that is
how?
Pretty crazy.
How?
I guess some of that process might start happening before it actually goes into the chrysalis.
Or like maybe not all of the developed section doesn't get broken down, because it's important to remember that learned things are not physically stored. That's not like a thing that happens in brains and nervous systems.
No, it's not like just extra meat in your brain that like has the information.
Yeah, it's just etched on it.
Well,
bad smell.
As far as I know.
No bad hurt. But metamorphosis is pretty crazy in summary.
Yeah.
But it's also affected a lot by the environment. So a team at the University of Michigan have demonstrated for the first time that stress hormones are also responsible for altering the body shape of developing animals. In this case, tadpoles, when they're growing up in their little frog spawn bubbles, if the environment around them is very stressful, the other tadpoles will signal to each other, and tadpoles can detect stuff in the water, which is always really interesting to me. Yeah, they're very sensitive creatures.
So they detect when the conditions are right for them to go through the change. Then basically,
but if it's really stressful while they're developing, they develop longer tails, which isn't very efficient in terms of energy storage and living life. Right. But they survive better when in the presence of predators.
Okay, so yeah, that's pretty cool. So not only is it a very adaptable strategy in general, but it can also be fine-tuned to what the conditions of the creature's current surroundings are.
Yeah, I mean, metamorphosis in tadpoles is crazy as well. They, again, sort of like butterflies, but without the pupa. They essentially eat their own tail internally, and then start growing out their limbs. I don't know if you've ever seen a tadpole when it's finally in frog form. It's just like a tiny, tiny frog, but was smaller than the tadpole it used to be. And then it grows up into your regular-sized frogs or toad.
A big old froggo. Yeah.
So here was another really interesting thing that came out quite recently from the Case Western Reserve University. They found that wood tadpoles, with higher, when exposed to higher salt concentrations, are less abundant but a lot bigger.
Okay, so they've redistributed the resources around them somehow.
No, this one was really interesting. They had to sort of figure out why, and one of the reasons they thought was that the salt would help more algae grow. so the frogs could eat more algae and grow bigger when, and that makes a lot of
Okay.
sense. But at the same time, it also appears to have a permanent damaging effect on the frogs, because usually larger frogs do better, but in this case they're doing worse.
So a larger frog doesn't put up with the salty water as well as a smaller frog does.
Sort of. They theorized that it's sort of causing permanent damage to them somehow. Which it's just really interesting, like, because it doesn't go down the route you're expecting it to go down in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, you wonder if those are sort of intended. Well, I say intended, like the evolutionary process has evolved to make that an adaptation, or if it's just an exterior effect which Metamorphosis can't control, that's affecting.
Yeah, especially in
the organism.
Waterborne species where they can't necessarily control their environment.
Yeah,
it's almost
so
like
basically
living in your food. You're sort of always exposed to it, and it's always changing you.
So what you're saying is, if you want to be successful in your environment, and if you want to be really fit, and if you want to just be all around really, really good, you need to start metamorphosizing. You need to get into that pupa and just start dissolving your body.
If you want muscles, you want to get surrounded by salty meat. So, like, maybe just blend some beef jerky and
then
swim
just
in
get
it.
in a bath.
And
and then you'll emerge as some kind
if
of
you're a frog,
horrifying insect man. Yeah, frog man.
you might get away with it.
Weak and strong and wet and dry and right.
Hi everyone! Congratulations for making it this far. It's Peter again. Just when you thought you'd gotten away. We hope you're enjoying this episode of Friends in Theory, and with hopefully many more to come, we'd like to invite you all again to get in contact with us. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Friends in Theory, all one word. You can find us on Twitter at _fatcast with a capital F, T, and C. On YouTube, you can find us at Friends in Theory, and on Soundcloud, we're Friends in Theory also. Speaking of YouTube and SoundCloud, please subscribe to our YouTube channel to stay up to date, as we're currently not sure we can continue using SoundCloud. We will keep you posted if anything changes. Please contact us if you have any feedback or would like to ask a question. You can really help us improve the podcast. And of course, please rate if you find us deserving. And if you think you know someone else who would enjoy this nonsense, please share the podcast with them. It's our best way of getting out there. Thanks again. Let's get on with it.
Don't deny it. Leave if you can't stand the thought of
Do you know what doesn't go through metamorphosis?
What?
Big old lizards.
That's a great segue into what I was going to talk about next, Pete, which is de-extinction.
Oh, really? What a coincidence.
Yeah, so thanks for that amazing segue.
Not at all.
De-extinction, what do you make of that? What's your first reaction if I say the word de-extinction? Yeah, Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park, obviously.
John Hammond.
Big sort of pop culture.
Yeah, he's gonna do
de-extinction.
the de-extinction. He's gonna bring the dinosaurs back.
He's real.
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum isn't real. He's a character.
No. He was a character in the book. Jeff Goldblum, who was playing the actual character. So de-extinction. It's a pretty crazy topic, because it's one of those other ones that we do in our kind of crazy theories section, which was kind of more or less science fiction a while ago, but now is getting much closer to being not fiction, just
honestly
science.
A very exciting time to be following science.
Yeah, it is. So de-extinction, what is it? Well, it is literally...
I thought you were going to just let me answer it, man.
Okay.
Just like, and now over to you.
I mean, if you've
I've
got
done
an
my
answer... You can go for it.
Okay, yeah, sure. You're essentially, if there's sort of any remaining genetic information from a species that is no longer extant, is it? It's not still...
Extant is still alive.
Yeah, but is no longer with us. Such as the Tasmanian tiger, which went extinct around 100 years ago. You can take that DNA, toy around with it and another creature's DNA to sort of try and bring it back to the modern times.
Yeah, so that's probably what most people would think of as like the Jurassic Park is taking the dino DNA and making new dinosaurs. Yeah, so de-extinction is basically, at its simplest form, is just bringing back a creature that's gone extinct, making it not extinct anymore, and introducing it into the ecosystem again.
Yeah.
But it's not quite like that. So real life science, you're not probably going to be getting your Jurassic Park, unfortunately.
What?
Yeah, I know, because people want to try and actually do like some good deeds with de-extinction rather than just creating a horrific amusement park.
Yeah, I don't want to get bitten in half while I'm using the toilet. By
that would be terrible. Like that's
not on my to-do list.
That's a con to de-extinction. Let's be frank.
Yeah.
So everyone has heard plenty of stories these days about lots of species going extinct, humans having a bad impact on the environment and on the ecosystems. It's even been suggested by some people that we're living through a mass extinction based on human activity. But this is Friends in Theory, so we're going to talk about some positive stuff.
Yeah, this has got to be a pretty
instead.
good butt, Zach. You got us pretty down at the moment.
Yeah. Everyone knows about that kind of stuff. But de-extinction is possibly a way that we can affect the environment in a positive way rather than in a negative way. And by reintroducing creatures that have gone extinct, we might be able to not only kind of bring back those creatures which might have gone extinct due to human interaction with them, but also the impact that creature might have had on its surrounding ecosystem could also help build up and strengthen the environment that it lives in, which in a lot of arid regions, the way that the animals interact with the plant life is sometimes essential to the survival of that region. Yeah, everything that lives in an environment has an important part to play in sustaining and or indeed developing that environment. But obviously there are some sort of ethical issues when people talk about de-extinction, right? So there are people who are saying, is that, people like to use the phrase playing God. Should we be doing that? Wouldn't it be better to focus on trying to protect currently living species rather than trying to bring back others? There's generally there is a bit of a bad image maybe surrounding it, but if this technology could be used to support ecosystems rather than destroy them, it would definitely involve kind of integrating that synthetic genetics and biology into a conservational method, and that change of philosophy regarding adapted genomes and sort of engineering in biology would need to be that change in philosophy would need to happen for this sort of thing to be happening in a positive way. But I think it's got a lot of potential. I
mean, absolutely. Another thing is that the reason we can't bring back a lot of things like mammoths and the dinosaurs is just because the world is so different now. And apart from the fact we have so little DNA to work with, I know we all want that magical moment where we're sitting in a tree and the brontosaurus comes over and It
Yeah.
breathes on us, and
It
then
sneezes, and you
and
get
then-
covered in. Yeah.
it's okay because it's the herbivores. But unfortunately, it would most likely just be suffocating and in a lot of pain.
Yeah, so there's other issues with that, in that there are a couple of different methods involved in de-extinction, but the use of DNA of extinct species, there are certain species that have gone extinct that we have DNA for, but they're very recent. Like, if you're going back to the dinosaurs, going back 65 million years, we don't have genetic data for dinosaurs really on any significant level. So there's no way that we can do the Jurassic Park thing of taking dino DNA and splicing it up with a frog or whatever and making new dinosaurs.
Yeah, because fossils is rocks at the end of the day.
Yeah, and actually amber
They don't have no DNA.
Yeah, amber doesn't preserve organic matter that well, or certainly not genetic data.
Yeah,
but with
it falls
something
apart quite quickly.
Something like the mammoth is an interesting one, because mammoths aren't actually that far back in terms of history. We're talking thousands of years rather than millions and millions. So a guy called George Church has been doing some work on mammoths in the past couple of years and beyond. He's from Harvard. He claimed recently that he thinks it's 2 years until we can de-extinct a mammoth.
But just 2?
Yeah. So, but this isn't quite how you're imagining it. Probably. So it's not.
No.
It's not taking DNA.
Probably isn't.
Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't have just like a big button in the lab, and then out of like some sort of sinister doorway comes a big mammoth.
It's like in Russia, some mammoths just walk out, and they're like, here we are. We did it. We made it.
But in reality, what they're doing is trying to adapt the genetic information of an ancient elephant to display traits that we know mammoths had. So rather than splicing in some ancient DNA, it's more about changing DNA of a currently living creature to match those characteristics of ancient creatures. So, for example, changing an elephant's DNA to display long, shaggy hair, lots of layers of thick fat, and being resistant to the cold and stuff. And before anyone's worried about Asian elephants, which are threatened, I'm sure they've been doing all this sort of thing in the lab on fetus, just in petri dishes. Basically, they haven't been surrogate implanting any tiny mammoths into elephants or anything like that, because obviously that's bad for the elephants.
I mean, it's all cool, but realistically, does that count as de-extinction? Well, what's the point of just changing something that's currently alive to make it more like something that died?
Yeah, so it's
a bit creepy. It's
almost not quite actually bringing back an extinct species, but it's rather introducing a new species that has features that are different to species that are alive today. So if they basically adapted the genome of this elephant and managed to make a mammoth with all the mammoth features, that wouldn't be exactly bringing back an ancient mammoth, but it could have a very similar effect on the ecosystem that it would be living in, of course. And mammoths is one that has a lot of attention, not only because they're fairly recent in terms of geological history, but also because there are some people who say the effect that they have on the tundra environments is a very important one, and they actually keep the tundra and the ice sheets refreshed, and kind of could even combat some of the warming that's going on. I think it's to do with the fact that they prevent large buildups of methane or something under the ice, because they sort of break through it or something.
It's crazy. Nature's crazy.
Yeah. So that's one way of doing it. And then
hold on. I've got Pete knowledge to
Pete
give.
knowledge.
Pete knowledge.
Give me that sweet Pete knowledge.
Here you go. It's fresh, just for you. That's sort of more like rewilding, almost. It's sort of like ancient rewilding. Because they're doing a similar thing with like the grasslands in Europe. They're trying to bring back sort of aurochs.
Oh yeah, the aurochs, yeah.
They're sort of breeding bison and wild cows.
Yeah.
To sort of create a similar one to the... So just quickly for the record, aurochs were like big cows.
Big
in
hairy
sort of
cows,
South Europe. And they were all over the place.
Yeah.
And they all got killed.
They obviously had a big impact on the ecosystem, but nowadays
I might be getting it confused with like European bison. Or
no, I think you're right.
The point is that they're trying to recreate the sort of ancient wildlife we used to have before we accidentally killed them all.
But with our current sort of much more self-awareness about how we affect the environment, if we were able to sort of kickstart these more stable ecosystems, maybe we'd be able to help conserve them better.
Absolutely.
So it's definitely got potential. And one of the other methods that is still a bit far-fetched at the moment, but maybe not as much as you'd think, is just straight up gene editing techniques where you learn what you can about the ancient animal that you're trying to bring back, and then you edit the genes of a close descendant that's still living, so that it displays those features. And that is much closer, I suppose, to actually bringing back the extinct species.
Yeah.
Because you're just editing the genome directly rather than backbreeding for ancient traits or that sort of stuff.
We're still a long way from that, but once we've done that, that's basically sort of sky's the limit. Once we're able to like go down to like a DNA level and just be like, oh, just replace this with this and extend this.
I'd be really interested to hear anyone's opinions on this thing, because there are some ethical issues that people have argued. Personally, I think that it's got a lot of potential. I think that despite how it might sound manipulative of the environment, very, very high quality and sort of careful ecosystem engineering could be a way for humanity to restore many of those ecosystems that we might have damaged ourselves. And
this creates a nice timeline as well, because in 2 years' time it will be 2019. So in 2018 we go to space.
And then in 2019 we have mammoths.
We go to Jurassic Park.
Yeah. 2020, mammoths in space.
Mammoths in space.
Yeah.
Ice Age 6. Mammoths in space.
Yeah, if you fancy, post a comment. Do you think this is a good way for humans to take responsibility and do their duty of care over the planet, or do you think that it's too expensive and it's silly and it's not really worth it? I'd be interested to hear. What do you think, Pete?
Well, in the UK, there are projects to bring back, like wolves and bears,
right?
To sort of help with the deer problem.
Yeah.
And just they're cool animals. Like, I don't know about you, but having a badger as our apex predator is not exactly glorious.
I mean, badgers are nice, but
I think badgers.
I think all humans have an appreciation for wildlife, but also I think that we're coming to become more aware of how responsible we are for the environment and stuff, because we have such a big impact on it.
We seem to be at the tipping point where it's no longer literally 100% of the time we interfere with nature, we just make it worse. Yeah,
we could actually do some good with our tampering with nature, I guess.
In some cases it's tampering to just fix the damage we've done.
Yeah.
But it's still really good. It's still really exciting news.
Yeah.
2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
We'll still be doing Friends of Theory. We'll be on episode 8 probably by that point, so...
This joke needs to stop here.
No more. Yeah, it might be bad because it's true. But anyway.
Right.
So cool. Yeah, de-extinction. There you go.
Not just bringing back the dinosaurs. That's the tagline.
Yeah.
So Zach, I see a note here. It says, people wander around forest covered in piss and dressed like pandas for science. Would you care to explain why that is in my professional document?
Sorry, that I put that in the wrong spreadsheet. That's supposed to be in my private collection.
Okay, right.
No,
I'll make a note of that.
Yeah, so we're going to round up some fun stories from the week or beyond. So yeah, some people have been wandering around in Chinese forests dressed as pandas and coated in panda urine. And what they're trying to do is look after the pandas, basically. They're going out, they're tracing pandas, they're tagging them, they're tracking the ones that they've tagged and making sure they're all right. And they dress up like that and douse themselves in piss because they don't want the pandas to get too used to humans, basically, because they don't want the pandas just going, oh, these humans are all right, maybe we'll go into their town and have some fun, because that's not going to end well for the pandas.
There's enough problems with pandas liking each other as it is. We don't need them getting close to humans as well.
So that was one thing. The nice thing about that is that actually the Chinese breeding program for pandas, although slow, as you say, it is doing kind of quite well, and they pick suitable cubs that react properly to humans and so on, and they put them back into the wild. And panda numbers have been slowly rising in China for about 30-40 years, which is pretty nice.
Yeah, that's always good to hear.
Yeah. So what
what's
else
not
have we
good
got?
to hear is that Boston Dynamics have made a robot that's better than me in every way.
Specifically you. Is it called like Pete Bot? They just wanted
It's just called Peter 2. Robot Boogaloo.
The better version.
No, if you haven't seen this video, we'll link it in. And
I haven't.
This came out like a day or two after we published our first episode. And it's just a robot sort of wheeling around, jumping really high and picking up heavy objects and like not falling over. Which is really impressive.
That is quite a significant advance, actually.
Exactly, yeah.
Wow.
We've seen the videos of like robots being kicked and like made to walk on difficult environments because not falling over is actually a pretty difficult thing to master.
Don't say you were surprised when the robots finally rise up, because we just basically spent years and years just kicking them to see if they would fall over.
Exactly, yeah. It won't quite be like Judgment Day when they're chasing you down a road in a lorry, trying to kill you. They're just going to be... That's not even Judgment Day, that's the third film. No, please.
God damn.
No hate in the comments.
This is the worst podcast.
This is a robot that can run faster than you, and then it will pick up a heavy object and it won't fall over. You are now obsolete. How does it feel?
Oh no. Can he pay taxes though?
Bill Gates says yes.
Okay, good.
To make things stand with no disrespect to the end. High and low and
I've got another one. This is about caterpillars. Caterpillars in the forest.
Yep, can't get not enough caterpillars this episode.
Yeah, we've had some already. These caterpillars basically send signals to other caterpillars, as lots of creatures in the wild do. But the way they do that is by drumming their butts, basically. They have these anus parts which they vibrate to send signals to other caterpillars. And they...
Are you sure they're not just farting?
Well, I mean, the science says no.
Okay.
They sit on this leaf and they vibrate their bodies and the special anal contraption that sends out information about food and shelter and stuff like that. And it causes congregations of other caterpillars around the drummer. So,
Right. So it's almost like warning messages or something.
Yeah, it's like a smoke signal, but with your butt.
Yeah, I mean, in a similar way, if we hear someone fart, it's a good idea to move away.
I guess that's similar. Fine, yeah. Let's leave it at that.
Yeah, okay, sure. Okay, so computers can tell what a molecule smells of.
Computers can smell now. Is
Yeah.
that what you're telling me?
Computers can smell.
How? Do they have like robot noses now?
Yeah, and
Are they just...
they'll put it on the Boston Dynamics robot, and then not only will it be able to run faster and lift the heavy
It's
thing,
just going to be better.
it will be able to smell.
Noses
as
were the
well.
last thing that we had as humans, and now it's gone.
Okay. No, that's not quite as simple as that. It's
All right.
not
What's
quite
going
as
on?
sophisticated, really. So basically, stuff like color and tone can be easily predicted because they make wavelengths of light and frequencies of sound. But
Right.
to create an odor sort of predicting algorithm, a team at IBM's Computational Biology Center in Yorkton Heights, New York, they got 49 people together to smell hundreds of different molecules and rate them on intensity, pleasantness, and 19 other descriptors such as fruit, musky, and bakery. And then
Okay.
they took these ratings along with, the chemical structures of the molecules, and they gave it to 22 teams of computational scientists who competed to build the best predictive machine learning algorithms. And they've managed to
Right,
make...
so
Yeah.
it was based on like a survey almost. Like
a survey of smells, yeah.
yeah, a smell survey.
I kind of feel like 49 people wouldn't be enough.
Well,
But we're getting into the hard science aspect
Yeah.
here, the critical science. But
what if some of them couldn't smell at all?
these 49 people are determining the future smelling capacity of all robots.
Yeah. So
Okay,
Cool.
so this is just a short article published on Nature, and the final sort of section is, across all models, garlic and fish were the best predicted attributes with around
Right.
70% accuracy. Such tools could be used by the flavor and fragrance industry to formulate products the author say. Yeah, I'm looking for a perfume that is 70% fish.
yeah. It's like Cheezoid. Have you seen
yeah. Cheese.
Petril?
Yeah, it's so
So it can just tell between fish and garlic.
no,
like this.
no. Those are just the ones that it did the best. So we're actually
Right.
a bit further on than Cheezoid.
A bit not Cheezoid. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
it's pretty
Okay, good.
interesting.
Yeah.
So I think that's all the major stuff we wanted to cover. So just
Yep.
before we leave you to go and Google Cheezoid,
Yeah.
a team from the Coordination Chemistry and Catalyst Unit at the Okinawa Institute of Science and Technology Graduate University.
That's a good unit.
Yep. they've
Well
come
done
up with
on
a
that one.
new strategy for producing photoluminescent compounds with increased capabilities. We're about to have the best raves ever in
man.
short.
So, in conclusion, we're going to have a rave, the best rave ever, with just a bunch of nose-bearing robots,
Yeah.
some dinosaurs,
They're going to be
and
picking
some,
up the mammoths.
some
and this is
butterflies.
all going to be happening
Yeah.
on our space trip while we shed fat by turning into beautiful buff butterfly men.
All right, you heard it here first, folks.
Yeah.
Friends in theory.
Please comment if you would like one
Yeah.
of Zach's tickets to space.
Yeah.
And
Sure.
why you deserve it, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I only bought 2, so I wouldn't have to share the trip with someone else.
Okay, well,
All right,
thanks
I think
for
we're done.
listening, everybody.
We done?
If you've
Yeah.
made it all this way through, we are truly inspired by your dedication.
Yeah.
I've
Anyone?
been Peter Batstone.
I have been Zach Baru.
The music that you've heard throughout this podcast was the song "And" by Tally Hall from their album Good and Evil. I really love the band. You should definitely check them out. Bye.
And, goodbye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Big bad Betty of the apocalypse. She opens her lips.